Investor Brand Network, IBN, a multifaceted communications organization engaged in connecting public companies to the investment community, is pleased to announce the launch of the Stock2Me podcast as part of its sustained audio communications effort to provide specialized content distribution via widespread syndication channels. The following Stock2Me podcast is an Investor Brand Network audio production and may feature a client partner of IBN. Investor Brand Network may have been compensated for the production of this podcast. Please be sure to read our entire disclaimer for full disclosure. Thank you, and here today is your host of the Stock2Me podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us here today as you make us a part of your due diligence when you are looking at small and microcap stocks to invest in and add to your watch list as well. Today, we're speaking with FuelPositive Corporation. We're speaking with them once again, actually. I caught up with the CEO and founder back in September 2021. Let me tell you right now, FuelPositive Corporation is traded on the TSX.V exchange under the ticker symbol NHHH and on the OTCQB exchange under the ticker symbol NHHF. They are a client of the Investor Brand Network, which means you can go to investorbrandnetwork.com, click on the Clients tab, and from there, go in alphabetical order. You will find FuelPositive. And of course, it's so easy to just go to FuelPositive.com. But we once again are joined by Ian Clifford. And as I said, he is the CEO, founder, and chairman. Ian, thanks so much for your time today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Stuart?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for making time for us once here again. As I said, we spoke to you back in 2021, back in September. And for those who may not know, the company's business model is they are a Canadian growth stage technology company committed to providing commercially viable and sustainable cradle-to-cradle clean technology solutions, including, which we spent a lot of time on, and I want you to go back and listen to that first interview, green ammonia, NH3, for across a broad spectrum of industries and applications. So again, go back, find the September 14th press release. It's there on their press wire. We learned about the business model. We learned about the management team. We learned about the fundamentals of the business. But for a refresher, Ian, if you would, that paragraph I just read, tell us a little bit about what it actually means and what does cradle to cradle mean as well.
Sure. So 2021, was a kickoff year for us. It was incredible, the amount of growth that we were able to attain during the year. So if you go back to January of 2021, then we formally became FuelPositive. A couple of months later, we acquired our core technology, which of course is, as you mentioned, a modular and scalable green ammonia production technology, which we're now right in the process of initial commercialization of demonstration systems. I'll talk about that shortly, but our focus is very much on looking at technologies that are ready to commercialize today. So we're building now as we speak upon our core technology with add-on and very accretive intellectual property that is improving dramatically upon our core systems. The cradle-to-cradle aspect of what we're looking at is really kind of taking seriously a life cycle assessment of what it is that we do. What is the environmental footprint of every aspect of our business? So where do we source our core and raw materials? Where do we manufacture? What's our energy footprint as we manufacture our systems? How do we create the most efficient and environmentally neutral or environmentally positive systems that we possibly can? So that's a real mission and attitude of the company as a whole. We take everything that we do and we put that filter over it, and we determine, how can we make the most beneficial environmental impact in terms of every aspect of our business. So again, we are looking at scalable and modular systems for producing green ammonia, which are dramatically different than the way that ammonia is produced today, which of course is in massive refineries around the world. It's shipped all over the world. It has a huge carbon footprint. And our business model is really diametrically opposed to that old, historic, unsustainable way of producing ammonia.
Well, listeners, obviously we're looking for investments that are great for our portfolio, but what about the ones that are good for our portfolio and good for the soul? Again, the company aims to change the course of climate change through practical solutions that can be implemented right now. That's big. Here's another dateline and a headline I want to give to you, listeners. November 18th, 2021. Here's the headline. Corporate update. FuelPositive releases operational costing model and timeline for green ammonia production system. Here's the byline or the subheadline. Affordability, practicality, and an aggressive timeline secure FuelPositive's place as a green ammonia leader. I bring up this press release because a lot of what you just said, there's a timeline in the second paragraph talking about in the January, the company became FuelPositive. In March, we signed the intellectual property acquisition. So it's a quick read to get in the know for your company. Looking back on how you finished 21, and since we've spoken to you, so the months of November, December, and of course October as well, what were some of the milestones the company was able to achieve as you headed into 2022?
Well, I think from an investor's perspective, it's really important to know that we're extremely well financed. So we raised over $15 million throughout 2021. We worked directly with H.C. Wainwright banking group in New York and in Boston. We brought in really strong new institutional investors into the story. So we've got a great financial foundation for what we're doing today. And with any small company, any company that's pre-revenue, it's so important to have the necessary dollars in the bank, obviously, to execute on your business plan. So that's been a big focus for us through 2021 and going into 2022. So we have everything in place now from a financial and capital basis to build our initial systems, to get them out into the field for demonstration purposes, and to prove out everything that we announced in that November press release and associated webinar, which I really suggest people take a look at as well. It's available on our website. But it talks very much about the viability, economic viability of what we're building today. And our systems today initially are designed for agriculture. They're designed for farmers to become both energy and fertilizer independent. So farmers, are one of the most vulnerable sectors on the planet in terms of price fluctuation, obviously weather patterns changing and everything else. And what we realized is that our system situated on a farm producing both fertilizer and fuel for the farmer gives that farmer tremendous security and independence, and that's a game changer for agriculture. So our focus is to empower farmers, create solutions that they can implement today. So this isn't, back to our mission statement. This isn't technology that's going to take 5-10 years to realize any benefit. The second a FuelPositive system is plugged in on farm, the farmer is benefiting from that cost security, supply chain security, and all of those things that they're highly vulnerable to today.
Well, listeners, again, as Ian pointed out, just go to fuelpositive.com. Right there on the homepage, you don't have to navigate it all, is the webinar recording from November 18th, 2021. Well, big news for the company this week. Here is the dateline, Monday, January 31st. Here's the headline. FuelPositive announces filing of annual audited financial statements and provides corporate update. Company is on schedule for demonstration project rollout in mid-2022. There is a lot to talk about within this press release. Obviously, one of the big subsection is the first demonstration pilot project identified. You're the CEO, and what we'd like to do now is kind of get your color on the news that's outlined here, because there's a lot to talk about here, a lot going on with your government relations. There's other appointments to your company mentioned in here as well. Sort of give us the lay of the land here in this press release, if you will, Ian.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the importance for a new technology company to actually have product out there working and end users talking about it as opposed to the company talking about it is vital. So our focus has been very much to find the perfect pilot project partners, and those are now identified. We had our first site visits last week, everything is falling into place perfectly as it relates to the rollout of those initial systems. So that means that during calendar 2022, we will have a number of fuel positive green ammonia systems out in the field producing green ammonia, proving all of the cost points and efficiencies that are existent in the system. And that's key. We have to make sure that our end users are absolutely confident in terms of what it is that we're doing, what it is that we're selling them, and how our systems operate. So all of those key elements are what we're proving out through these very, very important demonstration projects. To me, that's kind of the most important thing of what we're achieving this year, is to prove in the field that our systems work as designed and provide all the benefit that we've indicated. So that's key. Another component of what we're doing, which is also really important, is government relations work. So we've got stakeholders federally and provincially throughout Canada at different sectors within the government who have very significant mandates to decarbonize. So the decarbonizing agriculture and reducing emissions in agriculture is a huge push across Canada to do so. And those kinds of programs exist around the world. So we're getting a strong footing in Canada based on the feedback we're getting provincially and federally, and a tremendous amount of support for what we're doing. So working with the best people in those fields is absolutely critical. So we did, in that press release, announce a number of those relationships, which I don't need to get into detail now, but it's all there. So we're building the best possible team, and that's an absolutely critical component of what we're doing now as well.
Yeah, the company does a great job of keeping its investors and potential investors in the know. Like I said, it's a very detailed press release. Accompanying that is the work that Investor Brand Network does. Investor Wire is where I'm at right now, reading an article by them. And one of the aspects that we're looking at here is also the portability of fuel positive solution, which makes it an ideal means of providing energy to underserved remote parts of the planet. And this is big for agriculture as well as we overfarm globally. We are always looking for that next outlet that we can basically bring online as an agricultural asset. So the portability of your projects as well and what you're doing, that's got to be a big goal for your company as it does some of your testings, makes your prototypes, these types of things. Is that a fair assessment, Ian?
Yeah, well, the whole idea of decentralization around things like fertilizer and energy, fossil fuel replacement, those are all key aspects of what our systems can achieve. So we can give independence to a remote community that has access to renewable energy. They could have wind or solar generation, but today are absolutely tied into the necessity to utilize diesel fuel for electrical generation, for instance. It's not a well-known fact that ammonia, pure ammonia, is actually a very viable fossil fuel replacement. So not only is ammonia an incredible fertilizer, but it's also an incredible fuel. So the idea that you can create these sort of independent pockets of sustainability, utilizing a fuel positive system at the core, is a huge part of what we're demonstrating. The idea that you can take initially take a farmer who is incredibly tied into the extremely volatile supply chain that exists around fertilizer, for instance. So a typical farmer in Manitoba who utilizes anhydrous ammonia today as a fertilizer, their price has gone from $600 a ton to, in some cases, well over $1,400 a ton throughout 2021 alone. And what we're doing is saying, no, you can have your own system on farm, produce it for maybe $550 a ton, add solar and wind to that, and you can reduce your cost dramatically, and that becomes the baseline for the farmer. So they know from now and into the future that they've got security around that key commodity. They're producing it on farm. They know exactly how much it's going to cost, and that's liberating. And at the same time, they can take the green ammonia that they're producing on farm, and they can replace fossil fuel with that green ammonia. So they can take their diesel tractors, their combines, they can convert those engines to run on green ammonia, and they can produce their own fuel on farm. And this, again, is a carbon-free, non-emitting fuel. So it is a net zero carbon fuel that would create tremendous efficiencies on farm. So those are the kinds of demonstrations that we're involved in now that we'll be rolling out throughout the year that will create this awareness. And we think it'll be quite revolutionary. And just the kind of interest we're getting from agriculture specifically and farmers who are desperate to control those incredible variable costs and supply chain, which they're hugely vulnerable to. I mean, it's infectious at this point. It's incredible the amount of interest that is generating now from this promise. So it'll be a very, very interesting year as the systems are out there in the field actually operating, delivering.
Well, listeners, what a great time and what a great segment right there, Ian. It's a great time to be looking closer at FuelPositive Corporation, adding them to your watch list, following their newswire. Do so on the TSX Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol NHHH and on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol NHHHF. We are speaking with CEO and founder Ian Clifford. Ian, thanks so much for your time once again today. Kudos on a wonderful 2021 and best of luck to you, your entire team, and your company here in 2022 and well beyond. Thanks for your time again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Stuart, and look forward to further updates throughout the year.
Outstanding. For Ian Clifford, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for listening.
The following Stock2Me podcast was an Investor Brand Network audio production. IBN is a financial news and publishing company delivering a new generation of corporate communication solutions, including news aggregation and syndication, social communication, and enhanced news release services. Investor Brand Network may receive payments for corporate communications relations, as well as various press releases and social media solutions provided to its clients. IBN holds no shares of any company named on the IBN sites, brands, and/or podcasts. To be clear, all officers, directors, and independent contractors of Investor Brand Network hold zero positions in and do not trade or intend to trade the securities for their own accounts. This interview is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell securities. Information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be or should it be construed as investment advice. As in all investments, investment in the featured company carries an investment risk. Listeners should review the company thoroughly with the registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This podcast audio interview by Investor Brand Network is not intended to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used and statements of fact have been obtained from featured company and other sources, but not verified nor guaranteed by Investor Brand Network as to completeness and accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice. Please see our full disclaimers and disclosures at investorbrandnetwork.com.